In this episode, you'll receive a breakdown of the quote, both wear mask. And then I ask, are you there? Welcome to Energy Alignment for Entrepreneurs, the podcast helping entrepreneurs be free from anxiety, stress, and tension through balancing emotions and consciousness expansion. 3 things you'll discover today. How to realize you're more than a human doing or human having. Why you don't need to be spiritual, religious, or materialistic. Enjoy it all. And what to do if you're strongly attached to the hyperachiever identity. We'll start with the quote, we both wear masks, and then I ask, are you there? Now, when I recite that, what comes to the surface is naturally every single human, just as nature has seasons, humans will go through phases and spiral upward and downward. But in totality, it's the lack of judgment of the upward spiral, the downward spiral, or the specific season/phase. That lack of judgment is what breeds the awareness of the mask. As in, if we are not to question ourselves, this is why that part of the quote ends with, are you there? It's a question. I'm not saying wake up. I'm not saying, are you awake? I'm not saying you need to wake up. I'm not saying you're asleep. I'm asking a question, right? Are you there? So this journey of, first of all, understanding what the mask feels like, what the mask creates, and what the mask prevents you from seeing. I feel that those are the initial pillars or categories that if you will begin simply, you'll start to notice in your life that there are environments, occasions that bring feelings of, well, we label it stress or anxiety or being excited. The, the extremes are vast. The levels of the spectrum in relationship to what we feel, it's beyond words. It's beyond language. But you learn when you look at your reactions as in the world's a mirror. And the mask is the separateness of that mirror when it shows you something. If you sit in a presence that understands that the mirror is a oneness, when someone carries a certain energy and you feel something in you, there's a relationship there. And if you do not start to extrapolate with complex projection, language, words, but you just sit with awareness, presence, as the relationship between you and another, whether the another is an animal, someone in traffic, your family, someone at work, someone you're attracted to, it doesn't matter. All of that, that doesn't matter. The fruit is, can we notice our relationship to the external world? Can we feel our internal world in relationship to the external? As that presence, that noticing cultivates, it first of all starts with the questioning, with the openness, with the courage, not to run, not to hide, not to judge, but to have a space where you're honest with that mirror. Because whatever the situation is, whoever you're speaking with, there are going to be moments where you have a light speed option, which isn't really an option. It is or it isn't. But you notice and you look, or you do everything that is in the escaping of that awareness. Because no matter if you feel it or not, The mirror is showing you something. And I won't use the word progression because things can happen in a moment. But as you live your life, right? First of all, the physical has to be in alignment for the psychological to stop being petty. And then the religion and the spirituality of life comes into being. Whereas you're not attached to a certain religion. Yeah, I'm talking to you. You're not attached to a certain religion. You're not attached to specific modalities and methods. You don't see that there is a single path better than another path. Okay, there are archetypes. And just as in video games, right? You could have a berserker, someone without shields, just pure rage, if you will, or pure energy. Then you could have sort of like the healer, someone who is like in that apothecary niche or archetype, where then you'll have other people who are, um, they have a sword and a shield. Then you have a wizard, right? Et cetera, et cetera. When you look at archetypes of yourself, that's also a modality, right? That's also a worldview. So this is where you sync everything to understand energy is very without words. And whether we're talking about seasons or elements in terms of weather, right? Fire, air, water, etc., or archetypes as in a personality, a type of individual, this is all classification via word. It's all a form of division. But you go through this stuff. You go through practicing certain methods, Eastern, Sufism, list all the different methods, list all the different ways that humans have found presence, right? Because what we're talking about is presence. I'm not going to dilute the message by thinking that there's a certain way or path that is more pure. But here's the magic. You in your heart, through awareness, will figure out your path, your modalities. You'll also figure out that you can't find security in those things. You'll do them, they'll help you. Then you'll do them to a point where either you're attached to the security which they give you, and then that's another journey right there. And see, this is probably one of the most beautiful parts in relationship to noticing how the mask changes. A lot of people make, right? First, you can have fitness people, right? They make MMA or fitness their personality, their identity. I'm wearing a jujitsu sweatshirt right now. So does that mean I'm bound to being just a jujitsu athlete? You know what I mean? Okay, then next is the psychology, right? Then you have people as a profession, like Jordan Peterson, a clinical psychologist. Are you someone attached to having the answers? Because as a therapist, one of the big problems being a coach, a leader, a founder, someone where others may look up to you is you'll fall into a trap. Now, I'm not saying you will, but if you are in that space, you'll notice this naturally, and then you'll be able to let go. Whereas you'll get attached to being the person others depend on. You'll get attached to being the person who has the answers. You'll get attached to being the one who's the therapist, and then you need someone to be broken that you can help. See, that's all facade. That's all extensions of the mask. And I'm talking about the depths here. These are just things I've noticed in myself and just living this life, learning. Ultimately, you realize there's no one worldview, no archetype, no method, no self identity that you need to be bound to. Hence, the shedding of the skin like a snake. You see, the answers are riddled within the animal kingdom in nature, the universe, the intelligence, God, whoever you want to label source. The intelligence is so clear if you'll slow down and get out of the materialistic ambition of the sense of self. And as you learn through shining light on your sense of self, all of the projections that the mirror shows you, and that mask begins to essentially, what happens is just as the rivers throughout eternity, erode rock mountains. This is what consciousness is doing to itself. Consciousness is expanding in a manner where the sense of self, the ego, who we label ourselves, think ourselves, identify ourselves as, it's being eroded. And I don't know when, how, but there's a loophole in this game. Intelligence has put a loophole in this game. And I'm pretty sensitive to the essence being presence, the essence being humanity, reaching a point where we're awake. Like on average, the average Joe is awake. Oh boy, that's coming. That's happening. That's here. We'll speak it into existence. It's here. Now, you'll still come across people who seem to be unawake, but you learn through that because you see, in your own awakening, others' unawareness can be a mirror for your identification of who you think yourself to be, right? Because you'll notice, you'll think you're wise, you'll think you're present, and then you'll notice your ego being a certain way in a very mundane, materialistic manner, which could be traffic. Just one of the most obvious examples that most humans can start with. Most of us drive, right? So look at yourself. Look at how you think, how you react when you're on the roads, right? Um, so I digress. That's, hey, 12 minutes, whatever, for the quote, but three things you'll discover today. How to realize you're more than a human doing and human having. Well, right? Shine light on the way that you may be attached to having things, to getting new things, to be excited for your plans to unfold, and all of the things which you're accumulating in this material realm psychologically in terms of self identification, right? Because I was just talking with a friend, right? And I'm going to do some upgrades, right? And it's cool. Do some upgrades. Make your house beautiful, aesthetically pleasing. But none of this goes with us. None of the objects are going to matter when our body's dust. And if you can live your life with that sort of foresight, with that awareness of the grand scheme of things, with the big picture in mind, it creates a space in you, right? Because then when you get excited, you'll still have breath. When you get excited, you won't put yourself in this little box of desire, ambition, need to get this now, right? The quote on my wall, I want never gets. It's a fact. The energy of wanting has nothing in relationship to the abundance which is necessary to receive your grandest of dreams. You know, that's how you create dreams and make them real, is you realize that it's not something you want, it's something that you're going to make happen. And when you live your life every day with that straightforward relationship to your movement, you make things happen. You will make things happen. It all starts, I would say, physically, right? You clean up physically. Then you have the psychological awareness to notice limiting beliefs, narcissism, neuroticism, which narcissism is sort of like this unawareness of the self. And that creates the victimhood or the blaming of others, right? The shedding of responsibility. That's really, if I had to define narcissism simply, that would be it. And then neuroticism is just, rage, anger. Again, it sprouts from the victimhood, the blaming others, because then you're just, oh, you don't take responsibility for what the mirror shows you. That's what those labels mean. I just wanted to break them down because I got them from Dr. Jordan Peterson years ago. But then I'm like, wait, maybe not everyone has listened to a clinical psychologist for thousands of hours. So ultimately, we just can realize that we're more than a human doing. We're more than a human having. We can look at that mirror. We can let the mask erode itself through shining light on it. Now, the mask isn't darkness. The mask is a distortion of light. But light is the pure form of energy. And then it just, if you reflect it off certain shades of lens, then the light changes in color and tone, in etc. Now, why you don't need to be spiritual nor materialistic? Be both, right? Or religious, be all of it. Because if you're attached, if you have an identity that you're a spiritual person, then you're kind of lost. Like, because no one wants a spiritual person that doesn't have material results. So the realist spirituality is realizing you have a message on your heart, and the only way, to get that message real, as large as possible, is to be the man both internally and externally. Okay? So you need to create balance in your life. I'm not saying materialism is better than spirituality or religion is better than spirituality. No, they dance together, right? Just like winter serves its purpose, because if spring was always springing, everything would grow constantly. That's ridiculous. It's not healthy. But winter tears you down to your bones. You need spring as well. You need fall and summer. You see? I know you understand. At least one of you. At least one of you. Now, what to do if you're strongly attached to the hyperachiever identity? It's a tricky one. I'll keep this short. But I want never gets. So to be a hyperachiever, you got to balance that out, right? Understand how to work, understand how to prioritize, understand how to be organized, efficient, clear, work strategically. But don't lose your soul in the building of the material. Now, you'll go through seasons. That's okay. That's okay. Sometimes it can feel a little like a coaster. Sometimes you'll be coasting more smooth. Sometimes you'll be, cutting up traffic a bit because you got 600 horsepower in a standard transmission that makes you want to go. I digress. I digress. Maybe some of you feel me, some of you don't. That's okay. I don't force that upon you. Recap. How to realize you're more than a human doing, human having. Okay. Question yourself. I'll leave it straightforward. Leave it there. Question your attachments. Look at what the mirror is showing you in your heart the moment that you feel tension. Okay? Now, why you don't need to be spiritual or materialistic or religious. You go too far into any route and you don't spread yourself, then you're done for. But if you spread yourself too thin, then you're done for. So learn through stretching the elastic band, let it snap back, touch the stove, get burnt, jump too deep into the abyss, lose your breath, and learn through that. Because it's having the courage to lose yourself that allows for you to realize who you need to be, who you are. And what I mean when I say lose yourself in the obsession, lose yourself in the curiosity, and then notice where the flute's guiding you back to. There's always a breadcrumb trail. And it's really the question of, can you smell the breadcrumbs? Can you hear the crunch when they're under your feet? Can you taste them, etc., etc., etc.? Right? It's the integration of the 3D senses with the unseen awareness. You integrate it. You let it be a symbiosis. Now, what to do if you're strongly attached to the hyperachiever identity? Look at what it does to you. Look at when you're ambitious. Realize how you communicate, the tone of voice, the lack of listening, how much you talk, right? Like, hey, I'm talking right now. And I notice it when I'm like over caffeinated or too tunnel vision. Yesterday I sat here for 4 hours building my websites. Like, yeah, I was zoomed in, and then I could feel, okay, I need to zoom out. I need to create space so that I can listen, so I can just, have a clear mind. Hey, you got to do both. You got to do both. Balance. I appreciate you. I love you genuinely. Let's go. Um, Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here. New episodes are out Monday, Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And if you want to learn more, click the link in the description. You'll get the details on how I can potentially help you be free from anxiety, stress, and tension, so you can stop feeling empty inside. Check the link below.